Hello, my name is Host Eric. I am here with some famous people in the room, including famous person Hami and INTJ, famous person's INFP listener, JD, Mr. Haberdasher, Nandi, and T-Shirts is here. I didn't know that Host Trenton was here. Anyway, we're talking INTJ, ISFP, Intertype relationship. I've got the cognitive function stacks here for your viewing availability. If you are at home, if you are in the room, you can't see this, but we see here INTJ goes NITEFISE. And then in the 5th through 8th, they've got NETIFESI. And ISFP, we've got introverted feeling as their dominant function. So let's start with the dominant functions. INTJ, introverted intuition. They are living in a world of an unconscious that they have some ability to. I think of the INTJ as Luke Skywalker by the swamp in Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5, and he goes, "Oh, it's too big. I can't do it." And then Yoda shakes his head and he goes, "There is no size." And then he just lifts it up out of the water, right? I picture INTJ NI functioning kind of like that, where you're not supposed to be able to pull shit out of the swamp, right? But because you've got NI in the dominant slot, they're the only people who could possibly actually pull shit out of the swamp. If you've got NI in the second slot, I have a feeling it's not really entirely conscious what you're doing, in the same way that you are if it's in the dominant slot, because NI is by definition sort of direct access to the unconscious. In my mind, the only way you're Yoda or advanced Luke Skywalker instead of beginning Luke Skywalker is if it's in the dominant slot. Then you can pull shit up out of the swamp. Otherwise, it's just got to cut out. The swamp spits it out. Because remember, the swamp's got those snake guys running around underneath the water, and they'll grab shit from under there, and then they just spit it out onto the side. If you let them, or if you really get it, because like for somebody like me, I'm not even aware the swamp is there until you learn a little bit and you realize, oh, that's where I'm getting all that shit from. But regardless, there's certainly no capacity to pull shit if you don't have it in the dominant slot. I don't think consciously is my guess. Now, FI, kind of a similar thing. I wouldn't imagine that it's anybody who's not an FI Dom. I'm sure it's true for every function, but less so for others, I think, than this one. I think FE is a lot easier for anyone to understand being an FE Dom than it is to understand being an FI Dom, because you think, well, what does that even mean? Today I was experiencing a fair amount of feelings, and I was making note and observing because Compton killed my guinea pigs, basically. I've got one who's still alive, but what made me super sad and I had a hard time of it today was that Compton killed the mom, and there were 2 babies, but they were only a couple days old, and I wasn't able to save them. I went to the store, I got some kitten milk, and I bought a little squirter thing. By the time I got back, I couldn't even find them. They were gone. I don't know where they went. They probably went to look for their mom. It's really tragic, and I had trouble with doing that today. Like, it took me a long time to actually, the reason they were gone probably because I took too long to actually go and get the shit done. And the reason I took too long to go get the shit done was because I knew it involved feeling horrible and have these horrible feelings. I go, it's really painful. And I forced myself to experience that a little bit. Well, can you imagine having to, I can experience it if I really sort of like say, okay, well, focus on the thoughts you're avoiding instead of the ones that you want to focus on. And when I focus on those thoughts, and I think, and I like go, try to picture the baby experiencing that experience, and try to actually sit in that space for a little while. I can't take it for more than a few seconds before I stop focusing on that. I run away from it metaphysically. And so I'm able to ignore the fact that I should go run out and deal with this thing because it's hugely important and it's causing me huge internal pain. And I'm able to just ignore that by thinking about other things. And then it erupts occasionally, and I feel extra guilty. But I don't want to go do it because it's going to make me feel even worse. So I don't know what it must be like to be FI dumb. It sounds like a complete nightmare to me, because as far as I can tell, the only thing in the feelings area are mostly bad feelings, unless you're laughing, in which case you can feel that anyway. So I don't know. But I'm assuming FI downs probably don't have all those bad feelings all the time.
And I thought about that today. I was actually experiencing what you're talking about. Literally. I was experiencing emotion, and I was going through the steps of eventually it's like I'm experiencing an emotion, and it's like, did I get enough sleep last night? Am I not eating right? Well, that's ENTP experiencing an emotion. We want to find some external verifiable way, except actually accepting we're feeling something. But it was eventually when I accepted that I was feeling something, it's like, how can feeling people who just accept initially at first they're experiencing an emotion possibly deal with it? And I think it's just the equivalent where they can just accept it, and then after thinking about it for a while, they get to finding objective variables within it. That is their non-comfort zone. That's when they panic. But when we start panicking and start feeling really bad is when we start having to accept that we're feeling an emotion. You know what I mean?
Or if we get trapped in it for a while. So let's do a video on that, expanding on that a little bit more next. But let me go ahead and hammer out INTJ and ISFP. It's relevant certainly. And in this case, we're looking at INTJ having FI as a role function. This is makes perfect sense because, of course, the INTJ is known as a type that is quote-unquote robotic, or not very socially graceful in conventional terms, perhaps. Although not, in my opinion, socially risky at all, because they don't really make any mistakes. They just don't display that sort of FE charminess, right? So the thing about that is, for the ISFP, they have FE as their fifth function, which means they're very comfortable with people who are naturally good at FE. In this instance, though, they're dealing with somebody who has it in their seventh slot. I think that the FI Dom is going to be concerned about their own feelings being attended to, and that the FE in the seventh slot is going to make it a weak spot for the INTJ. So I feel that there's a battleground there, possibly, in that the ISFP may have expectations the INTJ neither understands nor respects. The second issue will be the SE as a tool function for ISFP. ISFP will want to go out and do something, and they're going to want to go out and do something like, let's go to the hot tub, the hot springs, and sit in the hot water, and then let's go get a massage, and then let's go drink a little bit of alcohol and have some food, and then let's go lie down and have sex. It's like, that's the ISFP's plan for the day. Well, that's a lot of action for the INTJ. The INTJ that's not what they had on the agenda today. They did not plan to go to the hot springs and sit in the warm water, and they did not plan after that to go sit and lie down and get a massage. And while it does feel good, yes, it's nice, and I like that too, but I really have some other things to think about here. And I've got my work at home that I'm playing around with, and we can't spend all day here, honey. I think this is likely to happen with the ISFP and the INTJ relationship, except the ISFP is actually not a type that's fussy. They're not demanding. So, while there's a weird contradiction there, right? On the one hand, they're introverted feelings, so you ought to be concerned about their feelings because you know they are, if for no other reason. But then on the other hand, we're looking at a type that's calm, that's in the moment, that's egoless. ISFP is the egoless type, as far as I'm concerned. And I've said it about him before. It's a good thing to repeat, because I think obviously nobody watches all these videos, but The ISFP is a type in which when I'm with them, I feel half the time like I'm the only adult in the room and half the time like I'm the only child in the room. So they have a certain zen wholeness about them that is inconceivable to me. I think it's more conceivable to the INTJ, who deals naturally in whole truths in the first place as their dominant function. I think the ISFP's role function of NI is going to be a problem, because the ISFP's role function may be NI. In other words, they're supposed to manifest whole truths, but the whole truths they manifest are mostly of a physical nature, not of a metaphysical nature. So they understand other people as nice or mean. They understand experiences as feeling good or not feeling so good. And they understand that TE has to be used to make sure they find they're more often in those pleasant moments than they are in the unpleasant moments. And they need to use that TE to make sure they don't run afoul of things. So they tend to be very rules obeying, and they tend to be that's about as complicated as their relationship with TE gets. They just think, okay, well, the logic of the outside world. There are rules that tell me how I have to behave, or else I get in trouble. And I think that's what they deal with. That's how they start young, and then they have a more evolved form of that as they get into adulthood. But they're really in the moment. They're really egoless. They're really calm. They're really soothing people to be around. And whatever it is they're saying, you might think there's some hidden meaning to it. And, oh, well, she must have meant that when she said this. Nope, she meant exactly the words that she said, whatever they were. There was no subtext and no hidden meaning to it. They're very straightforward people. INTJs are also straightforward in their, in that they're direct in saying what their conclusions that they've drawn. They're not very talkative. Neither is the ISFP. I can imagine long afternoons of silence spent together if these two were in a relationship. That does seem to protect them against some of the conflict that one might imagine would erupt, since they probably won't be speaking to each other at all. But I don't know. I'd love to just sit and watch two introverts in a relationship not interact with each other and see. I don't know what I would witness from that, but obviously somehow it works. There's plenty of introverted relationships out there. I don't think this would be a good one. I wouldn't suggest it. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, the thing is, it's not like a duel, because if it were 1-4 like a duel, then it's a whole different ballgame. But that 1-3 makes it tricky, because the role function of the INTJ is to play at introverted feeling. When he goes home to his relationship, he doesn't want to be immersed in a world of it. So anyway, I don't know what it means to have a role function of introverted feeling anyway. Hami, how do you exercise your role function of introverted feeling as a role function? Or do you? Or what does that even mean? If you're there, Hami. I guess we'll never know. It's a mystery.
I think he's trying to type it out, maybe.
Oh. I don't know. He should use his microphone instead. So, yeah. That's the gist of it. That's my thoughts on the INTJ-ISFP relationship. Not a disaster. They are quadrumates, but it doesn't seem like a very good fit to me. And, yep, that's my feedback on that. And anybody else have thoughts?
I do.
Go ahead.
The INTJ, I knew one INTJ in my life, and I didn't realize it until when I started understanding the MBTI that I realized. But she was a junior, and I was a senior, and she had already completed 2 college courses, and she would come into this high school classroom as a junior with her college shit, and she would be doing her college biology and all this shit, and she would, like, I remember we kind of were attracted to each other, and I could tell she didn't have very good social etiquette, because she would just stare at people, just fucking stare directly at them. And then, anyways, one day I started talking to her, and I could tell when she was extroverted, she's trying to make sense of something according to externally verifiable systems that have already been there and existed, and me and her kind of conflicted in that way. Because one day I remember we got in the argument about a diet or some bullshit like that, I don't know. But the ISFPs I knew, like you said, they're very calming. I fucking love ISFPs. they're very, I don't want to say lazy, but sometimes the ENTPs sometimes get motivated, and then when I would get motivated around an ISFP, they looked so uncomfortable when I would start saying shit. I have a fucking idea. Let's start a car wash. I'll get the materials or some crazy bullshit, and they would just be so fucking uncomfortable. And thinking about an INTJ being extroverted at all, and even trying to motivate the ISFP to get up and like, hey, we need to get this shit done, get that done. And I feel like that would make the ISFP very uncomfortable, because that seems like that would be the only means of communication between the two, would be the INTJ using extroverted thinking. And that is like a very controlling function, and ISFPs love nothing more than their autonomy.
Right, well, that's true. ISFPs want to play, but it's interesting. That's why I think ENTPs and ISFPs get along fine. We both want to play. But the thing about ISFPs is they want to play. They want to play like easy. They're easy to please, really. They just want simple, pleasury stuff, and they are lazy, and that's okay to be lazy. It's not, that's the thing is we need them to be stuck next to ENTPs for one thing, to calm us down. It's like that's a good enough reason for somebody to exist. All the types, we need them for various things. Now, the fact is, we don't need that great hunter guy. We don't need that great ESTP much anymore for his hunting skills. But society finds ways to take advantage of everybody's various strengths to the extent that those strengths have any utility to others. And so, the modern ESTP may waste a lot of time, in my opinion, playing around with his cars. That may be something he does. And that might be like he was sharpening his weapons back when he was in the caveman times. But the thing is, some skills aren't that useful in a modern society that prioritizes utility versus like spiritual enrichment of moments with family or something. I think ISFP probably thrives more in an environment that prioritizes that more. And they're meant to be a family member that's not working, I think. Like, a wife or husband or just a family member that's like part of the family business or something that's there as a human anchor, because it anchors everybody. The ISFP anchors everybody. Anchors, not angers. Okay, so that's it for my comments on that. And anybody else got some commentary from Trenton? Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that the ISFP would probably get the INTJ to open up a lot, and it'd probably be like short burst conversations that are really intense.
Right. Well, that's a good observation. I suspect that would happen. I think the ISFP, to the extent that they do work that they're most naturally aligned to, is caregiving work, nursing, but like light effort caregiving, like somebody who goes and helps the old lady in the house for a few hours a day and doesn't have too much of a taxing schedule. They usually tend to find people, the females will find people to take care of them one way or another, I think. Not necessarily intentionally. I don't think they have big plans, it just sort of happens. Okay, thanks for watching Talk to Famous People. You've been an amazing, amazing audience. Thanks.